podcast is brought to you by Aldis International, supplying your expert AI and digital transformation staffing needs across the US and Europe. Today, you are listening to our AI Mentors series, where we showcase industry leaders sharing their journey to the top, offering their advice and wisdom to help you achieve your career goals.
You're listening to AI Mentors. I'm your host, JP Valentine. Our guest today is Zach Elewitz. Zach is the Director of Data Science at WEX. Zach, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
So Zach, let's start with yourself, please, as we do with all of our guests. Could you give us a bit of an overview of your background and your journey in technology, from where you got started, some of the roles you've held along the way, and what's led you to where you are today as the Director of Data Science at WEX?
So I originally started off by getting a PhD in math and an MBA. And while a lot of data scientists have those credentials, I don't remotely think that they're necessary in order to land a job. But it was enough to convince someone at EY to give me a shot and get my foot in the door somewhere. And that's where I learned some of the basics of coding, the basics of data science back in 2014 when they were setting up or beginning to start to set up some of their data science and AI practice. I worked at EY for 2.5 years, which was an amazing opportunity for me because instead of just learning about the technical aspects of data science, I was forced to be a customer-facing employee and really learn how to communicate with stakeholders, realize what really matters, and communicate effectively. After that, I worked at Pearson, the education company, as a senior machine learning engineer, where I was able to work on more long-term projects. And instead of just doing proofs of concept, I was thinking about how does this system really need to work, not just in terms of the data science, but in terms of latency of a system, development time, what stakeholders really needed, and how that impacted the customer experience rather than just our fancy metrics like precision and accuracy and stuff like that. After that, I was working effectively as a data engineer at a company called Semantic Bits, simulating air policy for the federal government. And in my spare time, I actually founded a cryptocurrency trading startup called Pythia, which was a really amazing opportunity because in your normal roles as an individual contributor, you're kind of told which features are most important. But this was a product where the entire code base I built from the ground up and prioritized what should be added, what was most important, when to release an MVP and start using it. And so it was really cool to get to drive the product rather than being guided. After that, I went to Neiman Marcus, where I was managing teams of data scientists focused on lifetime value, which was a particularly fun problem because one, it was during COVID, so all of the data was messed up. And two, the luxury retail space was fascinating because I tried to figure out how much customers are worth. It's a real odd area because one single purchase at a luxury store can grossly change what the value of the customer is, or their spending habits for the next year. Now I'm the Director of Data Science at a company called WEX, where we are trying to further embed data science, machine learning, and AI into our normal business practices. So making these advanced analytics functions more accessible across the organization, focused on high value opportunities. Where can the business truly be impacted rather than just doing R&D?
Thank you so much for the detailed background. I definitely have some questions around your journey and what made you make the decision to switch companies when you did. But just to set the stage for your current role now, you've talked about the function of your group in the data science org, but tell us about WEX as a business, who you are, what you do, what you're doing within the industry.
So WEX has a lot of different lines of business. Within, we're most known for being a payment processing company. So we offer credit cards to a lot of the companies that have fleets of vehicles. And so we can make things cheaper. We offer services around your experience with your vehicles and also offer, if you use our cards, then you can potentially get money back or discount places. But we also have a health line of business that has HSA accounts. We're getting in the EV space and also offering a lot of services around your owning the fleet. So maintenance, repairs, getting approvals while repairs are on the road, just plugging into the broader suite of the fleet experience rather than just the card itself.
Okay, thank you for that. Just to understand then your role in a bit more detail as the director of data science, could you give us a bit more oversight of the group that you lead, the breakdown of the various projects, what the culture is like there day to day?
So WEX is a great company culturally, a good work-life balance, and interested in making a measurable impact. You heard me allude to not just an R&D group. A lot of places I've been have been so focused on trying to tweak a model to get the most juice out of it. They don't focus on trying to deliver real value. And a lot of the projects we work on, I start them as not say committing to completing the project, but on determining whether it's worth putting more effort into. So some of the recent projects we've worked on, one is an application fraud model. So something that can detect when someone is applying for one of our credit cards. Do we have reason to suspect that this person is not intending on paying for the card? For example, if you have a teacher in Ames, Iowa, who makes $45,000 a year, and they ask for a credit line with $100,000 monthly credit line, that's a little bit anomalous and could be an indicator of fraud. So stuff like that. We also have fleet size models. So figuring out how big we expect the customer to be so we can know which sorts of products and services they might be interested in. Some other stuff, a lot around credit and fraud at the moment. But upcoming models are likely to be in the EV space. We're looking at some stuff around large language models so that we have, for instance, there's a payment processing service we provide. We're going to pay a bill on your behalf and you'll pay us. But a lot of the phone trees we deal with are if you make an RPA system for it, it's extremely brittle. So if they change what the tree is, it automatically breaks. Whereas if you use an AI functionality, it can understand the point of what's trying to happen and then adjust accordingly. So a lot of cool, diverse projects.
Yeah, sounds very interesting indeed. I want to go back a couple of steps because one of the things I want to learn more from yourself in your career to date was how you've been able to successfully pivot and change industries. And when you look back now, what you learned from that. You and I were speaking off air about the background of data science candidates that you're interviewing and what you look for and what's important. And I want to help our audience sort of learn from your journey and maybe dispel some myths for junior people just starting out on their career. So when you look at the last 10 years, you've moved successfully from consultancy into two different industries, and now you've changed more recently again. So what are some of the things that stood out to you around the times that you made those moves? What did you learn from each move? And what advice would you offer to people who are considering a switch in industry or are just starting out on their journey?
Yeah, the first thing is a lot of people get wrapped up in all these fancy techniques. The key is to be able to brand yourself as a value contributor who happens to have these specific skill sets. I never was saying, oh, I'm a retail person or, oh, I'm a consulting guy. I'm someone who is interested in making a meaningful difference and talking through your problems with you. And these are the skills that I tend to go to, but want to do what really works. A lot of the interviews I have with people, I start off and I don't get into what fancy models do you know? I say, okay, tell me about a project that you've done in the past. So I have them start off with, what was the point of the project? How did this project even come up? I want to see if they really understood why they were doing it, or were they just find a data set and start training a model. Then I got into what value does this actually deliver to the business? If they start talking about the dollars saved or the time saved per month, I know that they really understand why we do data science in the first place, as opposed to someone who just knows to get a high AUC. But getting back to your real question of how do you get into this? Doing the work is the best way. Finding if you're not in data science yet, but you want to find those opportunities that exist at your current company, because it's great to do casual projects and find things on your own, but it doesn't speak to that robust experience of being a data scientist who knows how to deliver value, which is what we're really looking for. So going and asking someone in marketing, hey, what problems do you currently have, and getting them to describe it, then talking with some of your data engineers and architects and whoever is around about where data exists that might be relevant to that. If you can find a way to make a difference in these interviews, not only will you be able to talk about the project, but you'll show your initiative and how you can be the one who delivers value. The main question I ask myself at the end of an interview is, do I trust this person to run a project on their own?
You are listening to the Oldest Podcast. When you're looking to scale your team, or if you are interested in showcasing your company in a future episode, reach out today. Or if you're in the market for a new role, visit our website to view open positions, www.aldist.com.
I want to spend some time now, Zach, just looking at the current AI and data landscape, because there's obviously a lot of hype and attention on certain aspects of AI, but to what you just touched on, you and I were talking about the everyday practical use cases for aspects of AI and how that's still so important. When you look at the roadmap for the next 1 to 2 years, whether it be you and your team at WEX or more broadly the industry as a whole, what are you seeing that's particularly exciting? What do you think is high? Where do you think people should be focusing their attention on for skills development?
I think the first thing is for people to decide what sort of data scientist do you want to be. If you want to have a lot of flexibility and be able to switch companies and hop around the way that I have done, then it doesn't make sense for you to specialize in the most advanced convolutional neural networks or spend all your time doing that for language processing. Start off, do you know what are the assumptions that one makes when doing even just a simple linear regression? A lot of these simpler models are extremely useful with the right application and for the majority of applications. So if you want to specialize in an area, get really great at that. But if you just want to better understand data science and be able to make meaningful models, I'd start with all the bread and butter, get into linear regression, then logistic regression, then start getting into random forests, the XGBoosts and ensemble fanciness on top of that. It's kind of like, you can go to whatever fancy bakery you like and they have that amazing buttercream icing. But if the cake itself isn't great, you don't care about eating it.
Yeah, very good point. Zach, as a director of data science for a large data group working on various projects that are impacting your company's business, you have your finger on the pulse of just how impactful a data team can be to an organization. So that obviously influences your needs and desire to hire people. We were talking off air about when you're interviewing candidates, what it is that you look for. So I'd like to spend some time on that. As the director of data science for WEX, when you're interviewing candidates, whether it be data scientists, data engineers, machine learning engineers, what is it that you're looking for in the profiles and then also in subsequent conversations when you meet them?
I want to see if there's someone that I think can really do the job. Is this someone I trust to operate independently and lead projects on their own? I'm not interested in being a micromanager and curating every aspect of their day. I want someone who can on their own figure out what our stakeholders really need and collaborate with them, with myself. And in general, just figure out what the best value is and provide it. So when I pull up a resume, the first thing I'll do is look at what the line items are for their titles. So data scientist is a useful title to have because it does imply that you've potentially done modeling before. I look at the line items on your resume. Lots of people have stuff on there about communicated with stakeholders. Like every line on your resume should be an advertisement encouraging your interviewer to ask you about it. So talk with stakeholders everyone does that, but able to increase churn prediction model by 47%. That's something I can go into and say, why was the churn model bad to begin with? How did you know that this 47% was a meaningful increase to churn prediction? How did you quantify its benefit? Then we can start getting into what data did you use? What was the former state? What does it look like in production now? How does the deployment work? How are people using the output? How do you think about your data science model as a product that the business is using, as opposed to just some piece of software? I dive into, do they know how data science should really be used rather than just I built a model? Because a competent high schooler can do it.
Final question for me then, Zach. Part of your job as the director of data science at WEX is leading the team, managing the team, but you're also heavily involved in the talent acquisition component, and you play a pivotal role in attracting talent. So it's obviously an incredibly competitive space right now to hire and retain folks. So I want to finish on getting your take on when you're speaking to candidates about your team, your day-to-day work, the mission, and the impact at WEX. What is it that you tell candidates that gets them excited to join WEX over some of the other great companies hiring?
The first thing I say is, first of all, a lot of people when they're leaving jobs are really quitting a manager they don't like. So I let them know who I am as a manager. I say, because I'm looking for someone autonomous and not looking to be all up in your ear every day, I'm someone who wants to be support for you. So I talk about how I demonstrate through my actions how they're going to know that I can be that sort of person. So I say this interview is supposed to be a conversation. In no way is it supposed to be intentionally tense. So if you need to go grab a glass of water or take a moment to compose your thoughts, there are going to be no gotchas here. This is just a conversation. That puts people at ease and shows people that I'm interested in having a meaningful conversation. And this is going to be bi-directional. I also make sure that I answer all of their questions at the end to make sure that it's about a compatibility of and a fit between a person and a company, rather than just, does the company think this is good and a person is interested for a new opportunity. Once you actually are speaking about the company, I talk about the work-life balance. I talk about my style as to where the team is going. So right now we have 2, soon to be 3 data scientists. I explain the reason that we're hiring. I go over what the current projects are and how I know that they're worth spending time on. I talk about where I'm trying to take the team. If it's a candidate I'm interested in, I'll usually also speak about what are you looking for out of a job and see if what satisfies them as a person is aligned with what we're looking for. Because we're not one of the FANG companies. We're not going to pay those exorbitant salaries, but we are somewhere where you can make a difference and take ownership over a model. We are somewhere where I do push for good work-life balance. My team is actually doing a ski bonding day on Monday together because we're remote. We just don't get that time together. I talk about how we navigate the team culture as a remote organization. So we have causal inference reading groups that meets every other week. And on the off weeks, we have a happy hour that isn't on Friday when you want to go just be with your friends and family. It's on a Tuesday where we actually hang out and talk about whatever you want socially. I also talk about what does career growth mean to you? So are you looking to get into management and what are the options there? A lot of people just want to be individual contributors and that's great. But a lot of people in the organization don't have a vision on how to grow their companies. So I talk about how I actually have a quarterly meeting with my team on learning goals that is not in any way aligned with the end of year review cycle. So if you don't hit the goals, that's fine. But I want to talk about, do we need to scale back the goals or are there different goals? Or are you just wanting to do your job, which is also great? My goal is to capacitate the people on my team and in my organization to do whatever it is that they want to accomplish, even if it isn't fully aligned with the projects they're staffed on at the moment. Knowing that you're in an organization that wants to help you grow and having a manager that is interested in collaborating with you, that's what I look for when I join an organization. So that's what I try to offer the people that might join my team.
Zach, thank you so much for coming on today and talking to us. Great to learn about your background and so much to learn from your journey and how you've got to where you are today. Good insight into the work that you do at WEX. But I think most importantly, what I've taken from this is your practical view of the data science landscape and how he focuses on it's impactful for the business rather than what's the new shiny toy. And then your leadership style is a great look behind the scenes. And I'm sure people will benefit from hearing about it because it's certainly an advertisement of why people should consider working with you. So I appreciate your time. We wish you, your team, and everyone at WEX the best of luck in the months and years to come and look forward to having you back on the show again in the near future.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Aldous Podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review. We are available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and any Android podcast of choice. You can also head over to our website, www.aldous.com, to listen to more podcasts, view our open roles, and stay up to date with industry news. Thanks for listening, and stay tuned for more great episodes coming very soon.